Hello and welcome to episode 16 of the Waffle Hour Podcast.
Hello, listeners.
I am the Gigger.
The G word.
I did not go there.
My friends want me to start calling you that instead of calling you Gigger. So just call him the G word. See if he'd be down with that. I'm like, I'll ask him.
I think the problem I have with that is that, like, it's already close. And then when you say the G word, you kind of make it into a whole nother thing.
I think it's
What
hilarious.
I mean?
I legitimately thought it was funny. I wasn't going to call you that without your permission, though.
I mean, you go ahead. I'm not going to stop you. If you find it funny, I'm just thinking, like, I have to live with this name forever. It already gets looks.
Right? You just have to live with it. It's just basically your name.
Yeah, it's pretty much just my name. I guess we could start off. I've never actually told people on the podcast where I got my nickname from.
No? Where did you get your nickname from?
Okay, so we have a friend. His name is Aiden. You've known Aiden a couple of years. I've known Aiden 15.
15 years.
And I'm 23.
Okay.
So a long time. Most of my life, in fact. When we were children, I think around 8, maybe 4th grade, we used to hang out with another person named Ryan, which is my first name. And Aiden got really annoyed with our names being the same, so he would call him by his last name, but I got a nickname. I don't want to tell you my last name for reasons of obviousness, but it's very similar to my last name. As a result of this, I've been known as Gigger for as long as I've known. And in case you're curious, we didn't come to that, like, conclusion of where the similarity came from until, like, 8th grade. No, yeah, it was 8th grade.
Yeah, well, you're not typically thinking about,
racial slurs. Yeah. It never really came up. And, like, I never associated them together until 8th grade when someone pointed out to me, and I was like, oh, right. That's my fucking name.
It's weird that you, have you ever been bullied for that kind of thing?
No.
That's interesting. It's just a shame because, like, when you're listening to recordings and audio isn't, 100% clear, a word that rhymes with another word can very easily be mistaken for that word.
Yeah. Yeah, that's my life.
I don't know. Would you prefer if I called you Ryan?
No. I don't think it's that big of a deal. I think the only reason I really care is because, like, the world just keeps getting more and more PC, and I totally get it. I'm not, like, trying to cramp the style of the world. Mm-hmm. It just happens to be that my name will eventually not ring in, I'm assuming. At some point, someone's going to consider my name to be, like, bad, and I'm not going to know what to do about it.
See, I don't necessarily think that's true. I think, because it is a different word, it just rhymes. That's all there is to it.
Yeah, it's just, like, I can definitely see myself at some point, like, either getting called to from, like, in a crowd, or, like, talking to someone casually and they mishear me, they mishear the other person, and then it becomes a big thing.
Well, that's the only reason I bring it up, because my one friend said that the first time he listened to our podcast, he misheard what your name was, and he was like, what did they say? Did they just say that? And I'm like, no, his name is Gigger. Gigger.
G. But yeah, everyone in my life calls me Gigger pretty much, besides my parents. My bosses at work call me Gigger.
That's really weird.
Yeah, I know. All my friends, people who I barely know, there are some people in, like, our town who I've never met, who've heard about me through my other friends, and they know me as Gigger.
Yeah, well, I mean, for the first couple of years I knew you, I didn't know what your actual name was. I just knew you as Gigger.
That's another thing. A lot of my friends, for years, just thought that was my name. They thought to themselves, oh, his parents must have been watching Price is Right one time and thought, hey, how can we get closest without going over?
Jesus Christ. Okay, so what are we going to be talking about today?
Oh, we're actually going to establish? Fuck.
Well, kind of. What have you been doing? I'm going to let you start off, because I don't know. I'm a little, like, less sure of my topic of conversation, because I've been playing a video game, but I haven't, like, beaten it. I've just been putting some hours into it when I've got free time. It sucks on days I work. I don't have time to play video games.
Yeah, I know that feel.
Especially ones that require, more than the bare minimum of mental involvement.
Well,
The nice thing about Breath of the Wild when I was playing that, every day, was that, you just go in and you explore a bit and you find some Koroks, and you can do that for hours, and you don't have to put any more thought into it than that, and that just makes it great.
yes. Okay. I could probably talk about D&D. So we did actually play last week, but I don't remember the session very well. Because we did, thing is, not a lot happened, but that wasn't, anyone's fault. That was just, several big things happened, and they kind of encompassed the whole thing. So, we did a tournament that my team won. The idea was that there's several big players in the world that we're in.
Mm-hmm.
One of them is my boss in the game, Mr. Yurt. This is my mask character, to clarify.
Okay, yeah, this is the same campaign that we've been talking about, or the new campaign.
Yes, the second campaign.
Because we've transitioned from one to the other, but same players.
Yes, Mr. Yurt is my boss essentially. I sold him glass dragon heads that we made with dragon heads. We basically took actual dragon heads that we killed and then encased them in glass, and I sold them to him, and he became a recurring character.
Oh. Okay.
It's pretty cool, actually. That was him. The other person is his rival businessman, which is Mr. Griff, who's a giant hippo person.
Okay.
Will really we literally was going through the book and saw a hippo guy and was like, that's him. It was pretty fun. Him, and then there's a moving company that's just sort of a thing that happened, and then there's the king. King is a lich. He's a good lich. He's fine.
And he's the king of the country you're in.
Yeah, he's fun. A couple of sessions ago, I disguised myself as a businessman and convinced the council that we were going to be going at war soon, and then they let me into his chambers, and then I revealed myself to who I am, and then he became a recurring thing. So now I'm just on his payroll as well. And what ended up happening was Mr. Yurt asked me to fight for him in the tournament, and I was like, maybe, but I wanted, as a player, I wanted my team to be my group. I wanted everyone who I'm playing with to be on my team. Then we guarantee a win. No one loses. It's all great.
When you say my team, you're not saying our team, but you're specifically saying your team. You were the one who entered into this, and you brought your party members.
Essentially,
the other players.
So I think I told you about the session where Jake betrayed me.
I'm not sure if you did on the podcast or not.
Okay, well, I'll tell you about that session real quick. Essentially, I was asked by Mr. Yurt to do something for him to kill the rival businessman of his, Mr. Griff.
Mm-hmm.
Jake, who is now a cleric, he's multi-classed, he was not cool with that for reasons that I believe are obvious. And he decided to tell Mr. Griff that I was planning on killing him.
Okay, I do remember all this now. You might have said this on the podcast. It became a convoluted thing.
Yes, it became quite convoluted. And that became a whole deal. We ended up fighting and killing Mr. Griff, we thought. Not actually. And, me and Jake are now cool in-game.
Okay.
All that stuff. But now we're at the point where, because of that, Mr. Griff asked for Jake and our new character, Brandon, who you've met, and I know we've talked about him. Because I remember saying that before.
Mm-hmm.
And him and Brandon were going to be on Mr. Griff's team. I was going to be on Mr. Yurt's team with Vinny. And then Silas, I think, was just going to do whatever.
That's what Silas does.
Yes, he's perfect at doing whatever. And then Kate, DM's wife, was not at the session because she was not feeling well.
Oh.
Yeah, it sucks. What ended up happening was I determined I'd rather be on a team with my party.
Yeah.
Because obviously I want my party to
Yeah, you
succeed.
don't want it to be party versus party.
Yeah, no, I don't. So what I did was I went to the king, and I convinced the king to enter us into the tournament on his behalf. That way I could have all of us, we all, decreed by the king to do it. Our, our respective businessmen can't complain. The king told us, what are you going to do? And the king's, incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
He can cast, a portal at will.
Yeah, he's like a super-powered lich mage dude.
Yeah. So it's
Pretty
like
cool king.
he's a cool king. He's a nice dude. We ended up going into the tournament with his soda brand as our thing, and
The king has his own soda brand.
it's called Delicious Touch. It's like insane drinks. Like I think one of them is like it was described to me as gin and garlic sauce.
So did you have this like on your shields and armor and
Yeah.
stuff like NASCAR advertisements?
The only person with armor is Jake's character, and Jake got a sticker.
Right, a big ass sticker.
I'm like, yeah, I want this to happen. But what ended up happening, unfortunately, was that Vinny's character had agreed to join Mr. Yurt for, I guess, because like he doesn't talk. I think I've said before, he's a zombie. He has like 3 intelligence.
Mr. Yurt. Oh no.
Vinny.
You said Vinny's character. You mean
Vinny's character.
Brandon's character.
No, Vinny's character.
Who's Vinny?
Okay, Vinny's actually the one you've never met because he's never in town when you go over to Will's.
Got it. Okay, well, he is another person who is playing.
Yes, he's another person. He's a zombie. He has 3 intelligence. He can't talk really.
That's great.
He's a fucking perfect character. Will talked about him on the episode we did with Will.
That's why it sounds familiar.
Yes. So there's him, there's Brandon, there's Jake, there's me, and there's Silas. Vinny decides he's going to join Mr. Yurt because he kind of unintentionally agreed to it. Because Mr. Yurt was like, "Are you going to join?" He was like, "Meh." Just like shaking his head yes. And that was apparently a binding agreement.
Okay.
And then Brandon decided to join Mr. Griff.
So wait, even though you went out of your way to try to keep everyone together in the same
Oh, yeah, I
team,
did.
they wound up splitting off to separate teams anyway. So now instead of being one side versus another side, it's 3 different teams that you're all split up amongst.
It's actually 4.
Actually 4. Where's the 4th one?
The 4th is just like some NPCs that are like movers.
Okay, but none of the party members were on that side.
that's just like another team.
Okay.
But yeah, like the sentence "you go out of your way to do something and then it all gets fucked up" is a perfect way of describing the sessions we've been having.
You go out of your way to do something and it all gets fucked up is a perfect way to describe every session that you've described to me.
Like I'm literally like I think I told you about how the whole thing with Mr. Griff, I was trying to save his life also.
Mm-hmm.
Like my character is all driven by money. You can classify me as like lawful evil.
Okay.
Technically, just because I'm trying to get more money to become more powerful to fight a god.
Fair enough.
Not going to get into it. That's the whole point. I don't see the value in killing people.
Yeah.
Because there's no... if they're dead, they can't earn me money. True capitalist. Let's go. Sorry, I couldn't help it.
Well, I'm not sure about that. What if you're being paid to kill that person?
There's always another way. It
So
depends.
you're saying that you're going to try to always maximize profit, and therefore keeping everybody alive means having every person is a potential asset, so you never want to kill anyone because...
Yes!
Okay.
That is exactly...
It's not how that logic normally plays out, but
I know.
like it. I like the justification.
I tried to make it work. So I tried to save Mr. Griff when Mr. Yurt told me to kill him, and I suggested we do this by having his guy fight my guy.
Mm-hmm.
And then that way, or his guy fight Mr. Yurt's guy. That way, they die. One of them will die. Probably, Mr. Griff's, because they're just an NPC, and the other one was not. And then we'll be fine. The guy doesn't have to die. There's a whole great thing, and Jake comes along and fucking ruins it.
Yeah. Oh, man.
I mean, it was a fucking awesome moment when he ruined it, because it was like, he tried to pass him a note, and I was like, no!
Part of me really loves the way Will has been running your games because he's just so committed to the sandbox and letting players do what they want.
Yes.
Like more than any other DM that I know. He just wants to let players do what they want.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is that this almost always seems to end up being inter-party conflict. Like, if it's not like Silas accidentally killing someone or getting killed, or someone being put under a rage spell and fighting one another, you guys being on opposite sides of, like, this weird tournament battle thing.
I mean, yeah.
Like, your biggest adversaries in every campaign so far has been yourselves. Or each other.
I would like to clarify, not me.
No, I mean, you don't have any choice but to get involved.
Oh, man, I've been going through so many pains, trying so hard. Oh, we found out...
I should clarify. This is not Will's fault. Will
No.
allows this to happen by being committed to letting everyone do what they want. But apparently, what half of your party wants to do is screw things up for the other half.
It's not that they want to.
Yeah, they just end up doing it.
Like, Jake's justification was that he didn't want a man to die.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't really get that what I was trying to do was also not have the man die. He just kind of like didn't click. That didn't like click in his head until after I explained it to him when we had gotten home in that session.
Yeah.
And it's like, all right, cool. It ended up being a really great character moment. Like, I really liked it as far as like that went, because just we kind of became like a new understanding with each other.
Yeah.
It was really cool. And then we also ended up finding out what happened with the nightmares. So I've told you about the sessions like a while ago about how the dimensions.
Yeah, it was a little confusing.
Very confusing. Silas was having so much trouble. I feel so bad for him. The house we live in is a multiplanar house. Every time we break a wall, a new plane of existence opens on the other side of said wall.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of cool, but like also annoying. And I thought for a very long time that this was the cause of our nightmares that we were having. Because I believe there to be a thing in D&D or something where if you have like a link to, I think, hell, whatever D&D's hell is.
The 9 Hells of Beator.
Yeah, if you have a link through there, like through a plane door directly to them, you get nightmares. That's the thing I thought I understood to be a thing.
I can't remember. Like every single plane has like little rules kind of like that, and I'm betting like there's definitely a plane where like if you're there you have nightmares.
Thing is, that wasn't any of it.
Oh no?
No, what ended up being was that there's another Vinny's character. He has a doll. It's a cursed doll. If it touches
the zombie.
Yes.
Okay.
If it touches you, something happens. What's happened to me twice in a row was he touched me with it, and then if I touched someone else, I immediately switched armor and gear with them.
That's okay.
Yeah. Like
your clothing just swaps.
Yeah. And
not
all of our
your bodies, not your brains, your clothing.
And all of our possessions and everything, yeah.
That's a bizarre trope.
I've done it with Silas twice. Which I got lucky.
I assume the second time to get your stuff back.
No. I didn't know it was cursed the first time with that, and I touched him, and then our clothes switched. My mask came off, which is a big deal. And then we had to do it again later when I found him just on his own, and I touched him just like as a pad of reclamation, forgetting that I was cursed, and then it happened again.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, fuck. But he has that doll. One of the things the doll does, we learned like last session, is that it causes the nightmares.
Oh, okay.
We didn't know why or how, but like it does.
That it's in your proximity, you have nightmares.
Yeah, and it's not.
In addition to causing curses whenever it touches you.
We were trying to figure out like what the deal was with it, like how to stop it. We were like gonna build him. We're trying to like build him a dollhouse outside that he can like live in at night.
I take it throwing away the doll is not an option.
No.
That never is with cursed items.
No. Well, Vinny's character really loves the doll. That's like everything. Like he gives it little clothing and he like feeds it.
Okay.
I don't know, man. He's into the doll. I'm not gonna judge over here.
But it's giving the party nightmares.
Yes.
And also it curses you.
We're just trying. Well, it does curse us if we touch it, but we try not to.
Was there any curses besides the clothing swapping thing?
Yes, there are others. The one that caused the most like insane ruckus was if you touch someone, anything on them that's like flammable catches fire.
Is it always touching and clothing based?
Nope.
Okay. Just those two examples.
I had 2 flasks of oil on me.
Oh, and you got set on fire.
I got blown up.
And your character's dead now?
No.
You just managed to survive that one.
I ended up with 4 health. I lucked out. But what happened was Brandon's character was, I don't know what he was doing. Oh, wait, am I thinking of the right thing? No, this is the second time. I think that curse came from somewhere else. I don't remember the other curses the doll has. Will has a chart. What happened was we went to the Lich's brewing area for his soda.
Okay.
And he was giving us new tries and everything. And one of the ones he gave out just did wild magic, I'm pretty sure.
One of the curses or one of the...
One of the drinks.
the drinks are magic.
Some of them, yeah.
And this one is a wild spell.
It literally like gives you the wild magic chart for in D&D.
Mm-hmm.
It just gives you roll on that when you drink it.
So you can randomly turn into a houseplant when you drink it.
Yes. Which, by the way, I wanted to clarify. Jake guessed that you could do that without knowing, and then I told him you could. That was an option.
That's really weird that he would just guess that.
Yeah, I know.
Like, I always remember that one specifically because it happened in a game I was running.
Everyone does. Same thing. It happened in a game that me and Alex played.
I mean, it's one of the funnier things that can happen. Like, just them getting a little bit older or younger isn't that big of a deal, or
everyone in a certain vicinity getting fully healed, including the monsters.
Yeah, that's pretty frustrating. The houseplant thing is just so absurd. It's just like, how can you not remember that? Also, I might have told this story on the podcast before, but he was on a flying broomstick at the time.
Oh, yeah,
and
you told me.
Yeah, he was falling, and we didn't know what was going to happen. I knew. I was the DM in this one, but nobody knew what was going to happen, so everyone was panicking trying to catch the falling houseplant in case it was going to, break and die. That was fun.
But yeah, that was the whole thing, and I think Brandon got the one where if you touch someone, something catches on fire.
Mm-hmm.
And he comes back from the thing. He's like, the thing he drank made him like so ridiculously drunk. It was like the strongest alcohol imaginable. That was the whole idea.
I thought you said it was soda.
It is, but let's not get into the semantics of what soda is and where this needs to go.
See, I thought it was kind of cute that it was soda and not just beer, because it makes sense for people in a fantasy setting to be brewing beer, but we're specifically doing non-alcoholic soft drinks.
Sometimes they are, sometimes they aren't.
Okay, never mind.
I don't know, man. But he got mega drunk, and then he was coming out. He went out of his house out of his room to do something, and he passed me because I have a ring that lets me open any door and it leads back into my home.
That's a really cool magic item.
Yeah, really simple, really cool. I just have that, and I use that to get home. And as soon as I open the door, he touches me. The flasks explode. I get knocked back into the dimension I was in.
Jesus Christ.
The doorway is now gone. I'm just in there fuck.
I really want that magic item in real life.
Yeah, wouldn't that be fucking awesome?
Even if it was just to go home, that just sounds so nice.
So I get up, I'm ready to kill Brand.
I would get drunk a lot more if that were the case, actually, because then I would never have to worry about driving drunk. So I'd go out to a friend's house, I'd get shit-faced, and then I'd just open a bedroom door to go home.
Okay.
That sounds wonderful. I'm fixating on this magic item.
Is
this one of Will's ideas?
Yeah, that was one of his.
Will, if you're listening to this, that's a fantastic idea. I want that magic item. I'm going to use that magic item.
When?
I don't know. Maybe today.
Anyway, we were, I was ready at this point to kill Brandon.
To kill him?
Not in real life, obviously, but in the game.
For blowing you up.
Yeah,
I
thought that was fair.
Now, was this the curse from the doll, or what did this have to do with the...
It came from the wild magic.
Oh, so you were getting it confused with the doll.
Yeah, that was my fault. It also could be the same. I don't know.
Who even knows anymore?
I don't. But,
random chaos just happens, and you all have to accept it.
The thing is, Brandon's character actually did die from that.
Mm-hmm.
And he was brought back, because dying is illegal at Osborne, which is where we live.
Hold on. What?
Dying's illegal.
So, dying is illegal.
Mm-hmm.
And when someone dies, do they get fined?
Yep. They get brought back and fined.
I guess that makes sense for a Lich King to have that as a rule.
I mean, really it does.
So, if someone wants to die, they have to go to another country to do it?
Yeah, or go out past where he can see you and find you, I guess.
Okay, what about, natural deaths?
Illegal.
They're illegal.
You have to become a zombie.
Well, huh.
Yeah.
Huh. Because I was going to say, there's limits to the revive spell.
Nope. Not for him.
So anyone who refuses revival has to then be forced revived as a zombie.
Yep.
I love this.
I know, isn't it great?
That's fantastic.
But, I'm ready to kill Brandon. He's already dead, though, so he comes, the Lich makes him come back to life and everything. He comes up, and I'm like, Vinny, touch him with the doll.
Touch him with the doll.
I didn't know what it did. There was another fucking hilarious thing that happened with Silas's character. Silas is really obsessed with legend lore. Like, he loves learning more about the lore of the area.
Yeah, I mean, that's just Silas in a nutshell. It's
Yeah.
why he loves his fantasy novels.
And it makes perfect sense. The problem is that, Will doesn't really prepare much.
Yeah, I mean, that's hard.
Yeah, definitely. Like, no judgment. He just doesn't have enough stuff for Silas to be satisfied. So, one of the things that happened is Vinny touched Silas with a doll at one point. And anytime Silas tried to use any kind of divination stuff, like legend lore, for example... Oh, no, he touched Brandon. Sorry. He touched Brandon with a doll.
This is all so confusing.
I know. I apologize.
Because there's multiple people and multiple random effect causing items.
Yeah. So anyway, Vinny touches Brandon with a doll.
Okay.
Now, whenever Brandon's in the vicinity of Silas, anytime a divination kind of spell is cast, it's about Brandon.
Wait, this is on the chart?
Apparently.
So, Silas is constantly trying to learn stuff about the world, and he just learns more stuff about Brandon's character.
Yep.
That's neat.
I thought it was kind of funny.
That is a funny curse. It is a funny way to punish Silas.
I don't think it was intended to punish Silas. At least I hope not.
Well, I don't mean by punish him, but just play off of a particular thing that he does, which I enjoy.
Yeah. So that happened. That was good.
We should name this segment you just telling me stories about your D&D games, random anecdotes.
I don't have the capacity to name things right now.
We don't have to do it right now.
We should though. I would like to make more talking about D&D a little bit more because I've been really into it lately. I've been coming up with my own stuff I want to do. I just wish I had time and more people and a more willing group. That's the only thing I would criticize my current group with. Is Silas is kind of the only one who's willing to try other stuff. Will doesn't really want to learn a new system because he knows D&D and that's the one he knows. I get it. I just don't think he believes me when I tell him that Knave is simpler.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. Knave is so simple. You don't even need to learn it. The DM has it. He just tells you what to do, and it's okay, I do it. I roll a d20. That's all you need to know. I just feel like I want him to play it because I want everyone. I want to we can talk about Alex's thing we're doing later. I want to play test Alex's system that he's made. Yeah.
I want to give more credence to that. I want to show that off more because I play tested it a couple weeks ago. It was fucking awesome.
Yeah.
And today we're planning on helping him play test it some more. It's gonna be fun.
It does sound like a lot of fun. I haven't had a chance to try it, but I mean, we talked with Alex on the podcast before and he told us about the deeds and stuff, and that just sounds like a cool system, and I've been waiting to see it in action.
I can also tell you about what we did in our last session, but if I've been talking for a while, so do you want to talk about anything in particular?
Anything in particular? Well, let me think. So, I rewatched through the Witcher series on Netflix. I could talk about that.
If you want, yeah.
I also played I've been playing the video game Disco Elysium. Do you know anything about that game?
I know it's really good.
It is really good.
I've been playing Metro Exodus, but I just got it, so I'm gonna wait till next week to talk about it.
Yeah, that's the thing, is that I'm not super far into Disco Elysium, and the reason why is because I've talked before about my taste in games and how there are certain games that I want to like more than I do, but it just goes against what I enjoy in video games. So Disco Elysium is a computer RPG in the same way that Baldur's Gate or Planescape Torment or any of those classic games. I always think of the old ones, but they're still being made by Obsidian, Pillars of Eternity, and Divinity: Original Sin. That's not Obsidian, but
I was thinking of Fallout, the original.
The original Fallouts. All those kinds of games. They're cool. They're really, really cool games.
Yeah.
And I love hearing about those games and learning about those games because there's things in them. It's the best video game writing probably comes from those games, period. Planescape is an amazing game. If there's any one of these games that I really, really want to play, it's Planescape. And that's why I've tried playing Planescape a dozen freaking times, and I always kind of hit the same roadblocks.
Yeah.
And that's...
I was about to chime in. Fallout's the same way with me.
Yeah.
I really like Fallout as a series. I think it's like interesting. I think they could do more with it, but like that's Bethesda. Fuck them. I really wanted to play the first few Fallouts, Fallout 1 and 2, but I really can't get into them.
Yeah.
I can't get them the same way at all.
And the thing is that it's not necessarily because these are archaic systems or anything. Like, that doesn't help when it comes to games like Planescape.
Mm-hmm.
But even, like, a new game that I know is good, like Divinity Original Sin.
Yes.
Like, this is not a problem with it being archaic. This is a problem with me just not enjoying the style of gameplay.
Yeah, exactly. I just can't get into it. I can't, like... I mean, I really like FPSs.
Mm-hmm.
That's my preferred, like, game style. And that's how I was introduced to to the series of Fallout.
Mm-hmm.
So, imagine trying to go before then, not even to, like, third person, but to isometric, which I don't really like on principle.
Yeah.
I know that's a weird thing, but that's just how it is. I don't really like isometric games for the most part. The only exception I can think of would be, like, Don't Starve and Hades.
Yeah. Isometric is a weird way for me to think about that kind of... think about it, like, when you refer to isometric games, because to me, isometric is a specific camera angle.
Okay.
Like, Final Fantasy Tactics is isometric, but you wouldn't probably think of that as isometric in the same way that you're thinking of games like Fallout.
Yeah.
Because that is specifically a grid-based, turn-based strategy game, you know?
I mean, that's not what it is. Like
Final Fantasy Tactics?
No, that's not what isometric is. Like
Isometric is specifically...
it's a specific angle, yeah, but that could be matched through any different way. Like, Fallout's still an isometric game. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I can see where you're coming from. Like, yeah, it should be like a static thing where it's you're seeing it from like this one point of view and it kind of goes down. But original Fallouts and like all the other games match that same system.
I don't know, I almost feel like it's like two cultures that you might see on the internet where one might refer to these things as being isometric and the other ones wouldn't.
I mean, they're not good. They're not going to know. They're not going to know we're discussing it.
I learned about the term mostly from like when I was interested in doing like pixel art when I was like as a kid, and isometric art would always like really impress me, but there's just kind of weird quirks to it that bother me. Like, you can't do distance. You can't do that properly because things farther away are the same size because they're not actually farther away. They're higher on the screen. Mm-hmm. This is a very hard thing to describe on a podcast, so I'm going to stop doing this. So, that's to get back to what I was saying. I don't like these style of games.
No.
I am a lot farther in Disco Elysium than I ever got into Planescape. Mm-hmm. Like I said, I tried to play Planescape dozens of times. I played through that tutorial dungeon so many times now, and it's such a good experience. And as soon as I get out of it, that's where I hit the roadblock. Disco Elysium is so good that I've reached those points where I would have a roadblock, and I've kind of persisted through it. There's some strengths, there's some reasons why. First of all, it's almost not an RPG.
Okay.
Like, it kind of pretends that it's an RPG, but at the same time, it's almost as much of a point-and-click adventure game as it is an RPG.
Right, I've heard that.
In the sense that
I've understood.
Like, you, like, build your character to a certain extent, but there isn't a it's not a complicated system to figure out. You have attributes and a bunch of skills that are determined by those attributes, and you can put skill points into them as you level up to raise those particular skills. And then there's clothing that affects the skill. So everything's based on these skills.
Sure.
And a lot of the problems, you know, it's all done through dialogue. There isn't any real combat as far as I can tell. Maybe, like, I'm not far enough into the game to, like, see a combat segment.
Okay.
But I'm pretty sure that if there was, like, a fight or something like that, whether, like, it's a brawl or, like, a shootout or something, it would just kind of be a dialogue option that leads to a consequence and not necessarily a thing that I would have to actively control. Because, like, I don't know if you've ever... Did you get far enough into Fallout to know what, like, the combat's like?
No.
Yeah, you didn't even get that far.
No.
Well, think about, did you play Knights of the Old Republic?
Yeah, I played, like, the original KOTOR.
So imagine that, but even more stilted and awkward.
Oh, I'm imagining, the John Wick game.
Yeah, kinda. That one's turn-based, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
See, and the problem is that these things, I think they would be better if they were turn-based. I would be able to get a better grasp on the strategy, but they're not. They're real-time.
Mm-hmm.
It's real-time with auto-attacks and abilities. So it's a little bit like MMO combat, sort of, but it's also not.
That's how it felt like when I played KOTOR.
Yeah. I hate the combat system in these style games. It's one of my least favorite part. Like,
I hated that in KOTOR a lot.
KOTOR, I was able to get through it because it is as close to being
sure
understandable.
It's understandable.
Just a person like me, that is.
I just didn't like it as I imagine playing as a Jedi, and then I play KOTOR.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I've tried to play through Dragon Age a bunch of times, so I've gotten pretty far in that, but the combat's always something that holds me back, where it's this isn't fun, I'm just constantly pausing and selecting actions.
Yeah.
If I'm pausing, then there's no point in it being real time. It might as well be turn-based. There's strategy here. That's the whole point, is that I have to think about everything I'm doing.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
If I'm pausing in order to execute my strategy, then it might as well have been turn-based in the first place, because I'm effectively making it turn-based. And I guess the freedom allows people to do challenge runs where they don't pause or something like that, but...
It's a whole thing.
Yeah. So, Disco Elysium. Let me try to talk about this game. I like it a lot. It is one of the funniest games I've ever played.
Okay.
I have spent, just 10 minutes at a time laughing hysterically at the outcomes of a single dialogue choice before I'm able to continue, because it is so incredibly funny.
That's not what I was expecting, to be honest. It didn't look like a funny game.
It is so goddamn funny. It is so funny in the most bizarre and unexpected ways. So, the plot of the game, which I have done pretty well not learning any spoilers. Mm-hmm. Anything I found out, I wound up discovering the game almost immediately after, so I don't feel too bad about that. The plot of the game is that you are a detective.
Yes.
And you wake up with absolutely no memory at all. It uses the amnesia trope.
Oh, okay.
And the reason why you have no memory is apparently you were on such an incredibly epic drinking and drug binge that you have literally just lost your fucking mind. And it has erased all knowledge of who you are and where you're at and what you're doing and everything like that. So now you've got an opportunity to reinvent yourself as a person while also discovering who you were before this incident, and also you have this mystery to solve as a detective.
Of course.
So, unfurling story it's just really cool. I enjoy mysteries a lot. I really, really like the idea of mystery games, and I haven't ever seen them done really well. And while I'm not super deep into this mystery, there's been enough twists and stuff that I'm this is really, really cool. I'm really enjoying this kind of unfurling, you know? And at the same time, there's the other mystery of, who I am. You're missing your badge to start off. And then that makes you realize that you're also missing your gun. And then you, find a car in a lake, and you go, wait, is that mine? I didn't even realize I was missing a car, but I found a car. Oh my god, it's my car. They're going to kill me. So, I
gotta say, the art style and how I imagined the game.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
Yeah, but it's not what I thought. I didn't think it'd be funny.
It's okay. So
it looks very serious.
It looks very serious, and to a certain extent, it is really serious. But they give you a lot of freedom as to who you want to be, and if you want to be a ridiculous fucking clown, you can be, and that's where it's so fucking funny.
And that's what you've chosen.
Well, I did at first, because that was making it a lot more enjoyable, but then I started really wanting certain people to like me, and I really wanted to actually do a good job solving this mystery, so I tended to start picking more serious options. But you don't have to do that. You can keep being a clown the entire time. So here's a specific story. You find out from the cafe manager. You're staying in a hotel room above a cafe.
Mm-hmm.
And you find out from the manager that you have an outstanding tab of 130, whatever their currency is in this country. And when he brings it up, you have the choice to just kind of walk away and ignore him and try to kind of sneak off, you know? And I'm like, oh, I've got a 97% chance of succeeding in this skill check because I just happen to have that skill real high. I rolled 1 and I failed the skill check. So what proceeded to happen was an animation of my guy just sprinting off. And then the dialogue box pops up and it says, all right, you sprint away. And as you do so, you turn around and you flip him off with both hands. And then it gives you the options. And one of them is, shout, fuck you, buddy! I'm like, yes, I do that. And I shout, fuck you, buddy. And then you immediately crash into a woman in a wheelchair, topple over. And then, because my character had really, really bad physical stats, he had a heart attack and fucking died. And I got a game over. Oh my god.
That's pretty good.
It's so good. It's so fucking funny. And there's so many opportunities for stuff like that that you wouldn't expect. So the skills. The skills are weird in this game. They're not what you would expect. There's only 4 attributes, and they're basically strength/constitution, physical stuff. Basically dexterity, basically intelligence, and basically charisma.
Okay.
But it's more complicated than that, because a lot of the, say, physical, strength-based skills, you would almost understand them to be more of a mental thing, but you can kind of see how it relates to a physical side of it. One of them is called, shivers, and that basically gives you, an intuitive sense of danger.
Oh, okay.
And it's, you understand it's an adrenaline kind of thing. And if you have a really, really high skill in this, not only do you, recognize danger faster and react to it faster, but you're also able to control it in yourself, and this is also your intimidate skill, basically. Every skill is kind of a two-way thing. That's not the weird part about the skills. The weird part about the skills is that they talk to you.
Oh. What do you mean?
When you're choosing dialogue options, when you're talking to someone, your skill will just pop up with a thing to say. This is your inner thought, almost.
Oh, okay.
The easiest one to understand is encyclopedia, which happens to be the one I specialize in. Encyclopedia is just knowing about stuff, and this is really useful if you have amnesia, because someone mentions a thing, and your encyclopedia goes, oh wait, I remember what that thing is, this is what this thing is in the world. And for a first playthrough, I think it's pretty useful, since this is an entirely... I was going to say fantasy, but not fantasy in the sense of, swords and magic, but it's not a real...
Fantastical.
A real country you're in. It's got its own history.
Yeah.
It doesn't exist on Earth as we know it. So there's lots and lots of world building to learn, and if you have a good encyclopedia skill, it'll pop up, all the time.
Sure.
That one's pretty basic, it just tells you stuff, and then it gives you a dialogue option to say, oh, I know this, and then you say what your encyclopedia thing basically just said out loud to the person you're talking to. Mm-hmm. But other skills get a little more complicated than that. There's one called electrochemistry, which is all about drugs and sex.
Cool.
And whenever you find booze or drugs or anything like that, your electrochemistry kind of pops in and says, hey, you should do that. Come on, just drink it. give it a sniff.
That's pretty good.
At the same time, the electrochemistry skill is useful because doing drugs and drinking alcohol will raise your caps at the expense of lowering other skills and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So it's useful to have that high skill, and also if someone is on drugs, it's your electrochemistry skill that will pop up and say, hey, I think this person you're talking to is under the influence. Maybe you should go about approaching this conversation differently, you know? One skill is called conceptualization, and it's basically your imagination, almost.
Okay.
And when it's really high, you tend to embellish your idea to make it more artistic. It's not you see a body there and it's bleeding. It's there's almost a picturesque quality to that body. You see it as a piece of art. All the skills seem to have drawbacks if you get them too high, you know?
That's interesting.
And that's the thing. The other thing is I don't know how much of this is the game mechanics interacting with one another or if this is all like kind of a scripted thing to make it think that's an illusion of choice, kind of. And I think it's half and half, where these things do like constantly trick you into thinking they matter, and at the same time matter a whole deal.
Yeah, like it sounded like the situation you described with the rent. It sounded like at least as soon as you started walking away, I feel like as soon as you did that, it's almost a guaranteed one.
Well, that's the thing. It wasn't. That was a legit skill check.
Okay.
Or at least I'm convinced it was, because it had, the roll animation. There's two different ways of doing it. Either it pops up automatically, which I think sometimes it'll do it no matter what, and other times it'll do it only if your skill is a certain level.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then there's ones where you make a specific choice. I'm going to do a skill check. It's going to tell you what the odds are, the difficulty, what the extra modifiers you have, your chances of succeeding, basically. This was like a 97% chance. It only failed because I rolled double ones. It doesn't use a d20 system, it uses a 2d6.
Oh, okay.
Which is nice because it kind of has a bell curve where averages
Yeah.
are more common. Game mechanics aside, because you don't need to know about the game mechanics to enjoy this game. In fact, it's probably better if you don't worry too much about it.
I definitely wouldn't. But it sounds like it's possible that could be a thing that you fail no matter what, even with that, because you can fake that too.
Yeah, that's the thing. I wouldn't know.
Yeah, you wouldn't know, and that's fine.
But I do know that, because I've been save scumming a lot.
Sure.
Which is one of those problems where I feel like I'm ruining the experience of these games by playing it. And in this case, I think the game doesn't really feel that bad for save scumming. Like, it is fine that I'm just making sure I succeed a lot of these checks.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it doesn't matter too much if you fail, because oftentimes it's not a big deal.
Sure.
Like, there's those cases where my character literally just dies because I had a heart attack or something like that. But whatever, it's just going to reload the save anyway in that case. Other times it's like, oh, if you fail a check, as long as it's a white check, they call it, it's colored either white or red. If it's a white check, you can just retry it. And the only thing you have to do to retry it is put a point in that skill. And you level up all the time. You only need to get 100 experience to level up every single level. It never raises.
Mm-hmm.
So it's always nice to just have an extra skill point in reserve, so that if you fail a check, you can put a point in it and then try again, and you'll probably succeed the second time just because you put that point in there.
Yeah. It sounds like a pretty awesome game. I kind of want to try it.
So, the other part of the game, the other reason I'm enjoying it so much, it is very political.
Oh, okay.
And the opposite way of Korra, in that whoever wrote this game is very, very, very smart.
Mm-hmm.
And knows a lot about what they're talking about, and knows all about lots of different subjects of politics and philosophy. And it's a little silly that so many random people you're talking to are willing to engage with you on philosophical discussions.
Yeah, definitely.
But it's also really funny. And there's a mechanic where you can internalize ideas.
Okay.
So there's a concept, it will pop up and it'll appear in a special menu called your thought cabinet. And you can equip it. And it might give you a bonus or penalty while it's equipped.
Mm-hmm.
But after a certain amount of time, in-game time of it being equipped, it'll become internalized and it'll unlock a new bonus or penalty or whatever. And then you won't be able to swap it out anymore. But this becomes part of your identity.
Sure.
So, for instance, you can become a hobo cop.
Ooh!
And that's what it's called. It's called a hobo cop. You get really excited about the idea of being a hobo cop.
Yeah.
It'll give you bonuses to, looking for trash and selling it and stuff like that. In my case, my particular version of the character, I decided I was going to become a full-blown communist. I internalized the inexplicable, I'm doing finger quotes here, listeners, inexplicable feminist agenda. For some reason you're talking to someone and you just have an option for a dialogue choice where you, really get on his case for being, misogynistic. And then it's oh, what's this thought? I have this inexplicable feminist agenda. Was I always a feminist? Was I always this, level? Because it's not just, I'm not being a reasonable feminist.
No.
I am being,
unreasonable.
Up your ass about being, a misogynist in, the littlest way. So I'm yeah, totally, definitely gonna do that.
Well, it sounds like you don't actually have to do that.
No, well, that's the thing. You have tons of options. If you want to be like a crazy fascist, you can.
You
if
can?
you want to, like, yeah, that's one of the options.
That's cool.
You meet it's not a white supremacist, it's the fake country that they made up. This guy, and if you let him, he will go on and on and on about his philosophies, and if you want, you can internalize this idea and be a fascist as well.
Huh.
Or you can play as an ultra-liberal, and it's to you, the market is what's important. Capitalism is always, the most important thing.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can try to be a moderate, where it's mostly about just trying to do right by everybody, but, like, not necessarily, like, understanding...
Is there an option to do none of them?
Yeah. Yeah, there is. I mean, you're always going to have dialogue choices, and I unlocked a thing that I think is tracking, like, how many times I've chosen certain options. Like, going through it, I'm like, I'm not necessarily knowing. I'm, like, picking things thinking, yeah, this is what a communist would say, because he's talking about butchering the proletariat.
Sure.
But on the other hand, I go through the menu, it's like, oh, apparently I've said a couple of fascist things before without really thinking about it.
Yeah.
And stuff like that.
I like the idea of, like... I like the idea of not engaging with, like, the political at all.
Yeah.
Just becoming a hobo cop.
If you want to be a fucking insane person, you can. The thing is that, like I said, it's very smart about politics, and it kind of is one of those things where politics is unavoidable.
How... Well, I've assumed. But how long is it, you know?
I don't know. That's the thing. So, I've been playing for 2 full in-game days. I have a feeling that I am only scratching the surface, even though this is hours and hours of playtime.
Fuck.
And one of the reasons it's hours and hours of playtime is that I am doing everything I can, because that's what I do.
Yes.
I've reached the boundaries of my area, and have explored them, and I've talked to everyone, and I've seen what checks are available.
We have a very similar gameplay style. I would be doing the same shit.
And it wasn't... Like I said, it was hard for me to, like, do that, because as soon as the world opens up, that's when I hit that wall where I'm like, I don't know what to do, I don't know where to go, I don't want to, like, do things in the wrong order and make it, like, weird. And it wasn't too much of a problem getting past that. But then on, the 3rd day, on Wednesday, that's when they open up another big section of the map, and now the map is, like, triple-sized.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I found my car was going just beyond the limit before. And I don't even know how big the map is from there, because I'm like, I don't want to explore that. I've got unfinished things here. I want to do them first.
Yeah.
The first day, like, I didn't even look at the body, because I was so busy, like, talking to random people, and I was purposely, like, doing what I thought I wasn't supposed to do, so I could get all the side stuff done first.
Mm-hmm.
And I never actually went to go investigate the body, that was still hanging from a tree, in this one spot near where I started.
Yeah.
And, like, you have a conversation with your partner, your only party member, as far as I can tell, and he's like, well, we didn't even do that. I'm like, yeah, that's weird that I didn't do that. I kind of hate that. Should I restart the game? Because it's weird. And I'm like, no, just push through it. It's worth it. But then it was cool, because the second day I did pretty much nothing but, like, try to figure out how to get this stupid corpse down from this tree.
My reason I ask is because, like, I was thinking about it as, it seems like a game I'd really want to try everything with. I want to do multiple things.
Yeah.
Like, I'd want to mix. I want to be a fascist moderate. I want to mix them.
I think you could probably do that. So the way the internalization works is your thought cabinet has 3 open slots.
Okay.
And like I said, once you fully internalize that thought, you can't remove it.
Mm-hmm.
It's stuck there. But you can spend skill points to open up more slots. And you can spend a skill point to delete it. But once you delete it, it's, like, permanently gone. Like, I can't remember what... Oh, I internalized the idea of being a superstar cop. Where, like, you just feel like you're the most awesome badass and can do whatever you want. And I kind of didn't like it because it sounded a little bit fashy to me.
Okay.
After I, like, actually finished internalizing it and reading the descriptions and stuff. So that's the one I deleted. And I'm like, maybe I'll be a hobo cop instead. But I think I ended up being a self-hating apologetic cop.
This sounds more communist.
Yeah, that's what I wound up doing. Also, you have lots of opportunities to shout "fuck the police" at random people. And I always want to do it, but then my partner gets, like, really sad. And it's funny because, like, this game goes out of its way to, like, explain what the problem people have with the police, like that philosophy of, like, all cops are bastards.
Sure.
and how they don't really do anything except fight for the status quo, and they're able to abuse their power. Like, that's a thing. Like,
Yeah.
I said the politics are unavoidable. The consequence of being, like, a bizarre fucking clown of a person is that nobody can really stop you, because what are they going to do? Call the cops? You're the police in this area. Like, you represent the only law enforcement around. So, like, if you don't want to pay that bill, you don't pay the bill, and whatever, you're a cop. Who the fuck can say anything? And that's where it's like, you can't help but dwell on these consequences.
My point being, if the game is too long, I wouldn't want to take the time to go through each one of those. Like,
It definitely seems like a game that really wants to be replayed.
Well, replayability is great, but replayability with a very long game is not. Because, like, at some point, you're going to come to a decision that you're going to find out wasn't really your decision. It wasn't really a decision to be made. It just sort of happens that way no matter what you do. And that's going to kind of ruin the last experience you had a little bit.
Maybe. I've been quick saving a lot. And pretty much save scumming, like, every single dialogue choice and opportunity I think has many consequences. Which is funny because oftentimes, like, I'll see the immediate consequence and I will just hit the save to override that. There are very few cases where, like, I'll pretty much go, if I've got, like, a list of 3 options, I'll check all 3, and then I'll just go with it, and if there are any longer term ramifications, I just ignore that and I save over the file, which is how I've mostly been playing.
Okay.
But again, like I said, I think it's probably a great game not doing that, and just, like, choosing things in the moment and, seeing what happens because of that.
Yeah, probably.
Or even, like, it might even be the kind of game where you might want to have constant, like, big save files that you can always go back to in case you really, really hated a particular choice way back when. And just going back from that point. Because, like I said, I don't know how deep the game is, but it's giving me the impression that it's really, really deep.
Well, we'll have to talk about it more when you've played it more.
Yeah. But yeah, it's funny. I don't know if it's funny for everybody. Like, it's a different kind of humor than, say, like, Undertale funny, but that's the only other game I can think of that I've spent, like, that much time laughing out loud at what I was playing.
I've been thinking about getting it for a while. The only reason I haven't is because of the gameplay style.
Yeah.
So, with that recommendation, I might genuinely get it. But I have to think about it. It'll definitely be after I play Metro. I do want to complain about that a little bit.
Okay.
Just a little bit. I don't want to talk about too much.
Well, I got time, so how about we talk about it?
So, I don't know if you know anything about the Metro series.
Is it the one that, like, takes place in Russia, or is it made by Russian developers?
Both.
Okay.
So, Metro 2035 is a book. It's about what happens...
A real book?
An actual book.
Okay.
So it happens when the idea being the nukes came to Moscow, and the only people that survived were the people who hid in the Moscow railway system. So now everyone's, like, underground. There are monsters, radioactive monsters above, and everyone's trying to, like, everyone uses trains all the time. That's all we use is trains. I think it's Moscow 2035. That was the first one. And then there was... Or not Moscow.
The first book?
The first game. That Metro 2035. Did I say 2035 the second time?
I have no idea what you said in the first place.
Metro 2035 is the book. I think it's Metro 3035 or Metro 2045 or something. That's the game.
Okay, so I'm guessing one takes place 10 years after the book, the other takes place 1,000 years after the book?
I think. I don't remember.
Which one is the one you're playing?
The one I'm playing is the most recent, which is Metro Exodus.
Okay, yeah.
But
isn't
it's not the
Metro
only one I played.
Last Light?
The most recent one?
No, isn't there, like... There's 3 games, right?
I'm going to have to look it up. I really don't remember. I apologize.
Well, just take the talk about the one you're playing. Metro Exodus.
I can't. Because I also played the second one.
You play the first one?
No, I did not. I never played the first one. I only ever played the second one. I played the second one, now I'm playing the third. So, blah, blah, blah. Metro 2033 is the first video game. Metro Last Light is the second one. Metro Redux is a remaster, and then Metro Exodus is the most recent one.
Is Redux a master of the first one? Or remaster of the first one?
It's based off of the book.
And what's the book called?
Original work, Metro 2033?
So,
Yes, Metro 2033.
Isn't that the name of the first game?
Yeah, so I guess the first game encompasses the first book.
It's like an adaptation.
Sure.
I didn't know there was a book series involved.
Yeah, this is a complicated series. So I know the plot of Metro series up to this point. Metro 2033, the idea is that you're playing as a guy named Artyom.
Okay.
And you're like very Russian, you're going around, you're doing the general video game stuff. At the end, you need to kill what they call the Dark Ones, which I think are aliens.
Okay.
Yeah. The second one is you discovering that you like missed one, and the alien turns out to be like not as bad as you thought, and you kind of go through this whole thing of maybe you did the wrong thing.
Oh jeez.
The whole game. Yeah, it's fucking good. Metro Exodus is after that. One of the things you discover through the second games is that you heard another voice. Like you heard on the radio, you heard someone from some other country. So Metro Exodus is exploring the idea that maybe you weren't the only ones that survived.
Mm-hmm.
That's all cool. I don't want to go too deep into it because I've only gotten like the first part of it. So that's the plot. We've gotten there. Now I need to tell you about the thing that I hate about it already that I don't know if I'm going to be able to keep going all the way through it with.
Is it the gameplay?
No, the gameplay's great. The
Okay.
gameplay's great. The game looks really good.
And the plot's interesting.
The plot's pretty fucking cool. The problem is that no one shuts the fuck up. I've never had to complain about this before, Ben. Every character does not stop talking. It takes so long. They use so very many words to say so very little.
That might be a problem if you want to play Disco Elysium, because that's a lot. Its game is pretty much
Here's
just
the thing.
dialogue.
Okay, but Disco Elysium doesn't have voice acting, does it?
It does, but it isn't 100%. Like, pretty much every person you talk to, they will be voice acted, and like their introduction is voice acted. Like you'll have a kind of a short conversation with some questions and all of that. But as soon as you get to that big question, like this is where I'm just going to go run through the questions, then it stops being voice.
Then I can just skip through it, and I can read it on my own pace. I don't have to
Yeah.
listen to someone talk about it in a really shitty Russian accent that sounds like shit that they keep going on and on about that takes 5 fucking minutes to explain to me what a workbench is.
Okay, so I kind of want to talk about just voice acting for a second, because I have a complicated relationship with voice acting. I mean, like I've said a million times, I play old school games. They usually did not have voice acting, and voice acting really bothers me because I almost always read stuff way faster than they fucking say it.
I always read stuff faster than they say it. And Metro is a game where there's one of those we don't have a skip button thing.
Oh, it doesn't? You can't just...
No.
You have to wait through everything they say.
Everything. You have to wait through everything they say. You have to wait through every cutscene, even if you've already seen it before. It's fucking infuriating. Like the example I gave, you're on a train, you're trying to go somewhere through the whole game.
Mm-hmm.
One of the dudes on the train is explaining to you how to use a workbench. He's telling you about how he works with guns and how he's gonna make a workbench for you to use all your shit on the train, and it takes literally 5 actual minutes for him to go through this whole explanation.
Is this like a real-time gameplay experience like in Half-Life?
Yes.
Or is it like a dialogue menu?
It's like a real-time thing.
Do you have the ability to talk?
No.
So you just have to listen to everyone talking?
You listen, listen, listen. Eventually,
so it's like Half-Life if people never shut up.
Yeah. Eventually, I just start walking away. After a certain point, if they keep talking, I just leave.
Wow.
The other thing that's annoying is that, you know how you naturally end a sentence? You know how you're able to do that? You can just, talk to someone, and then all of a sudden you kind of feel like you're done.
Yeah, there's an intuitive sense of when the next person can talk.
Yeah, exactly. You see when I did it right there?
Yeah.
Not a thing in this game. They don't do that at all. Every single time they, end a sentence, and then it's like, are you done? And they're like, nope, we're talking more. It's like, oh, okay. Done? Nope. More? Oh, yeah? Yeah? Russian? Okay.
This is so weird. Okay, I've never played these games. I know they're good. I've never heard about this before.
I didn't think of it as a problem. The other thing is, I think the writing in this one is way worse than the other ones.
Really?
I'll give you an example. The idea for the beginning of the game is that you discover there are other people. You actually confirm that there are other places, and you try to leave Moscow to go convince people to open up the border or something. I don't remember. But the your wife is the colonel's daughter, and you're like buddy with the colonel because you're banging his daughter or whatever. But at the beginning of the thing, when he discovers that you found out, he's like, "This is bad. You shouldn't have done that. How dare you?" And then there's like a very short dialogue thing where he's like, "We can discover it together." And he's like, "Oh yeah, let's do that. That's a great idea. Let's abandon my country. Let's abandon the army I was fighting for. Go straight to the leading city of Moscow." It takes like half a second in dialogue for him to completely change his mind on the whole thing, and that's just kind of how it is through the whole game. Of like, this is what I mean. That's the problem with the talking. They talk so much, they say so little, and none of it's really written well. It's just written in a cumbersome way, and it's really frustrating to listen to. It's really frustrating to listen to this like hardcore military general who really didn't want to the only thing you want to do is protect the people of the metro. Mm-hmm. That's his whole life goal. It's all he's ever done. All he ever wanted to do. And then you steal a train and leave this the metro area, and he's like, you know what? Let's just fuck that. Let's just go become the bastions of Moscow now. It's fucking infuriating.
Yeah. I don't know, maybe there was some evidence of this total personality shift that you missed when you didn't listen to someone's dialogue.
What do you mean didn't listen? I didn't have a choice.
Well, you said it was real time. Like you said, you can just walk away, right?
Most of the time. Not all of the time.
Sometimes it lock you in place?
Sometimes it locks you in a room, basically.
Okay. Oh, so it's like those really long parts in Half-Life 2 where
Exactly.
Those are the worst parts of the game. It sucks too because when you first play Half-Life 2, those are really cool.
Yeah.
It's like I am here, I am witnessing this in real time. Things are going on around me. And then the third time you're playing it, you're hopping up and down and you're jumping into weird corners. I'm so sick of hearing this.
Yeah, it's like that, but it's my first time and the writing's bad.
Oh man.
But the gameplay is still awesome.
Does your character talk out loud like Booker and
I think he's supposed to. I don't really understand. When he the first time I encounter anyone in the game when I have to talk to them. Mm-hmm. I think that he tried talking, and then it skipped his dialogue option entirely for some reason. I don't really know. The dialogue was going on. I had the subtitles on so I can read it, and his wife would say something, and then for a split second there'd be another whole paragraph, and I think it was him replying, but it was skipped immediately. And I didn't do that, because you can't do that.
Yeah.
I don't really...
You were able to read all of it? Or
no, I couldn't even read it. Literally, I just see a paragraph for a second, and then it's gone, and then it's the next person talking.
And as far as you can tell, he's never responded to anyone else?
The only thing I know he does is he talks in the load screens. He'll tell you, with the situation, if you, die, what he's doing right now. And that was the same in the second game. He didn't talk in the second game. But those two areas where that happened really confused me. Most of the time, it's just people talking around you, and you just kind of presuming you agree or whatever.
Yeah.
Or disagree, depending on the context.
But it's the Half-Life thing.
Yeah.
Basically.
Essentially.
I was wondering if it was more the difference between the first BioShock and BioShock Infinite, where BioShock Infinite you're playing as a character who never shuts up. Mm-hmm. And he'll comment on things.
Yeah, no, he doesn't do that.
I had just assumed that Metro was some sort of action RPG. I had assumed that there was going to be dialogue menus and choices and stuff. Maybe not advanced ones, but more Skyrim.
No. There might be a couple that I'm forgetting about in Metro Redux or whatever it's called. Yeah, the second one, Last Light. But in Metro Exodus so far, there isn't been any. Mm-hmm. There are decisions, but they're all organic. For example, one of the first things you do after you get out of the Metro and get to the next part of the game is you find this church of zealots who are insane. They want all technology to die.
Okay.
And they try to kill you because of course they do.
So you can start fighting back and shooting them.
But the idea is that you don't have to. And that's the kind of annoying thing. I did because a bunch of people had showed up and tried to kill me, and I didn't really have any other way to get out, so I just started killing them. But eventually they just stopped. They stopped fighting, They put their guns down and are like, we hope that you don't kill us so that,
Okay.
the women and children can continue. And then I knocked those guys out, and I left, and it was like, you could still hear the women and children crying through one of the doors.
Jesus.
Yeah, it was kind of harrowing, and I was like, I probably should have done that, but it's like way too late. So that it's like, I would say it's not really an RPG, but does have an element like that, and that's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool.
It's just like, I wish I had realized that was even an option. It just seemed like it was a time to shoot things. It didn't seem like it was a time to sneak.
Yeah. The sneaking versus shooting, because that's usually the only choice you have to make in a shooter.
Mm-hmm.
And I hate the sneaking bit. It's like, this is a formality for no reason.
Yeah, that's probably my least favorite thing about this game, actually. Or not this game, but like the series. It's the same in all of them. But it's like, you're like a giant Russian soldier. Why the hell would you sneak anywhere unless you have to?
Well, the one that gets me is the new Wolfenstein games. And I
Yeah.
get it. Well, here's the thing, is that the very first Wolfenstein game back on the fucking Atari was a stealth game. It was not a shooter. It was, you have to move your little pixel out of the range of the other pixels when they're not looking.
Okay.
It was like, a very, very old school archaic stealth game. And then Wolfenstein 3D was a shooter.
Yeah.
Where you shot people. And the new Wolfensteins are the typical, this is a shooter, but there's a stealth element where you're trying to pick off people before they find you, and that makes the fights easier. And the thing is, like, you have to do that because the fights are brutally hard in that game. Like, you'll just get fucking annihilated. Which, I don't know. I like Doom better. Like, I don't like cover shooting. I think it's boring. When I play, like, a game like Halo, I play it on the lowest difficulty, and sometimes I just run up and I bash the person in the face because I find that fun.
Yeah.
I want to be able to do that. And the funny thing about Doom is that it's designed to be played the way I want to play the shooter anyway. And I'm rewarded for bashing them in the face with my melee weapon by getting more health back. In fact, this is a gameplay mechanic that's encouraged. What did I get on this tirade again?
Because I was talking about the stealth stuff.
Yeah, you gotta do stealth stuff in Metro.
But you don't have to. That's the thing I kind of like about it, is that, like, the choice is there, but, like, it's not an actual choice the game is telling you about. It's something that you have to do on your own.
Yeah.
You have to make that decision. You don't have to. You can do whatever the fuck you want.
But it's not the game, because so many games are, we assume, they want you to just do stealth, and we assume that there will be a point where you fuck it up, and then it becomes a chaotic shootout.
Yeah, it's not really that. There are elements of that, though, like in the last game especially. But I'm liking it so far. I'm going to keep playing it beyond the never shutting the fuck up.
Yeah, even though you don't like the writing and stuff like that.
So far, maybe it'll get better. It might. Like, I think that this was really just the setup, if you think about it that way. So maybe the actual nitty-gritty will be better. But yeah. That's kind of all we got. It's also, like, time, so...
Oh, it's time? What's it time for? Okay. Well...
It's time.
It's time. It's time to wrap up this podcast.
Alright, let's go.
We have had a couple of, like, really long episodes, and I kind of, like, prefer the shorter ones, because I like listening to these things myself, and I don't even want to listen to myself for that long.
Well, no, I don't listen to them all, because I hate listening to myself.
Yeah, I've gotten used to it. Like I said, you gotta pretend that you're just listening not to your own voice, but to the nasally weird asshole who shares all of your opinions. What are you doing there?
I am getting ready to...
Oh, are you actually pulling up a list so we can do the rundown properly?
No. I'm getting ready to end. Alright, this has been episode 16. We have a email. It's at thewafflehourpodcast@gmail.com. It's cool.
We have a Twitter.
We have a Twitter.
It is at Our Waffle. That is hour as in the time.
We have a YouTube, which you may be listening to this on, which is the Waffle Hour Podcast at youtube.com. And we are on a variety of streaming services. Ben, tell us about those.
I don't know that. I know about Spotify.
That's the one.
I listen to it.
You did it. Spotify.
I always
we're on
bring
Deezer.
up that I'm on Spotify.
We're on Deezer. We're on Pocket Casts. We're on a bunch of other ones. You can check our Twitter. We will pin the link for that.
Maybe we should, finally get on that Apple Podcasts.
Do you have an Apple device?
No.
Yeah, neither do I. And making an Apple account without one is incredibly difficult.
Why do these products have to be so fucking popular?
I don't know.
They're not good, people.
We're getting on a tirade way too late.
Okay.
Yeah, that was everything.
Do you
Goodbye.
have any final thoughts?
About what?
I don't know anything.
No.
Okay, well, I'll say goodbye, and then
We will talk.
we will talk.
So what's up, bro? How you doing? What's it be like?